Hello, how are we doing today? Thank you for joining me. And so my name is Judith Mendoza. I am a behavior consultant and educator. And so, of course, today I am volunteering again for autism and autism awareness, education, and mentoring. And the goal is for me to not just to bring awareness in regards to autism, but also in regards to knowing what it is and dealing with the situations that it brings and the circumstances. How the person is affected, but also how it affects us in the family and in communities. So, of course, I am concentrating on the importance of I. And the reason for that is that in autism it's difficult for the identity of self to be automatically. Today I wanted to explain a little bit more in regards to the dissociative identity disorder that it causes, but also to make a comparison as to what trauma can cause in regards to dissociative identity and personality disorders versus what is caused in autism or for those who have autism. So I thank you for joining me today. So according to Mayo Clinic, right, because this is something that it is known now more than when some years ago, for example, I don't know if you have seen the movie Sybil. I have watched it. So talking about the dissociative identity disorders, according to Mayo Clinic, it says dissociative disorders are mental disorders that involve experiencing a disconnection and lack of continuity between thoughts, memories, surroundings, actions, and identity, especially identity. And so people with dissociative disorders escape reality in ways that are involuntary and unhealthy and cause problems with functioning in everyday life. So dissociative disorders usually develop as a reaction to trauma and help keep difficult memories at bay. So basically the person who has the trauma wants to keep it away, right? Don't want to be in the situation. So the only way sometimes for this person to escape from these things, especially if it's a child, right, is to go into their fantasy world and maybe pretend to be someone else. But this is something that a person can grow and become an adult with. And of course, we have these things. Symptoms ranging from amnesia to alternate identities, right? So this is something that I want to bring the differences, because if we know, then we will know how to treat the person. And so when it comes to those who have trauma versus the one who have autism, when it comes to this and knowing the differences is important. They are they are minute differences, but they are big differences when it comes to treating those who have autism. And the reason is because, of course, they have difficulty explaining themselves as themselves. Usually they will explain themselves using the identities, the alternate identities that they are copying or that they are pretending to be, and using that person's conversations, which may not have to do with what they want to say. The differences, right? With the one who has trauma versus the one who has autism, the person who has trauma has the capacity to be self at one point. So that person who has trauma will use alternate identities. For the most part, that person will have main identities, at least two, maybe one, but at least two main identities that the person who has trauma will use in order to do life, everyday things in life. For the person who has autism, the person who has autism will use an identity after identity after identity right there at the moment in order for the person who has autism to explain himself. That's the difference. So the person who has autism will never come to clarity one day out of the month or 2 months that he has been such and such individual. He or she will not say one day, I feel out of place, I feel as if time has passed and I don't know what has been with me, going through the symptoms of amnesia, maybe feeling like they just wake up from a very long dream or sleep, and the person will not remember doing certain things. And of course, all of these will bring more trouble in regards to the emotional state for the person who has trauma. But for the person who has autism, the person, right, who has the autism versus the one that does not have the autism, the one who has the trauma, making the difference between the two groups, the ones who go through the trauma and go through different identities for a long time, and then those who have autism and go through identity patterns. And of course, they also have their main identity patterns that could be their parents, because they spend most of the time with. And so that person who has autism, who is literally pretending to be mom or pretending to be dad, and if he's a boy, that boy will pretend to be literally dad and literally mom. And those could be the two identities that are main identities for that child. It could be also the reason why a child will want to wear women's clothing, mom's clothing, because he really wants to be mom, because in his mind already he is mom. Yes, but also dad. I am the one who experienced this with Frank, of course, right? I forgot that this is what I'm mentioning, and this is what I'm finding out, right? So Frank, the person who likes to pretend to be someone else because he has autism, and that is the way that he uses for him to speak. He uses things, he uses people to point out words or to show words. So then for him, being mom or being dad means that he could do the things that he should be doing as an adult. For example, taking care of himself, taking care of his bills. So he lives as them both. He lives as mom and dad. Most likely, whenever he needs to be, pretending to be them both. And what I have discovered is, and the information that I want to share is that for Frank, it has been that when it comes to the identity, unlike it happened in the movie Sybil, where she comes to being herself and she knows what her name is, what her legal given name is, because she has a sense of identity, of self-existence. But when it comes to Frank, and what I have noticed in others who have autism, is that he cannot find the person that he's supposed to be. Of course, now he's having a better understanding of being self. He's having better discernment in regards to his own existence, which for all these years, he's 20, he's going to be 30 years old soon. Frank is going to be 30 years old soon, right? I knew that he had autism 5 years ago. I learned that he had autism, and from then on we have been working in the matter of finding out what he had, then finding out what autism is, then explaining to him what autism is and how he is affected by autism, and then now going through the steps of what is first, what is more important. And of course, the first thing that we all need, and every child usually learns to be self from a very early age. The child who does not have autism knows about himself, knows about his own existence, responds to himself, know that he exists, that he matters, or that she matters, and they are understanding that when their name is called, it belongs to them. So it belongs to them, that name, and they can respond to that name. But for the person who has autism, basically that goes over their head, and that it doesn't become important. And so the person who has autism, because they are not able to form their own identity for self automatically, as it seems to be with those who do not have autism, then what happens is that when they develop this dissociative identity disorder, because they have not yet developed an identity of self, but yet they start impersonating and pretending to be others to have alternate identities to use, they don't believe to be alternates. Those who have autism, they don't believe that these identity patterns are alternates, because the person who has autism can only learn in a literal way. So that person who has autism actually is literally copying and believing to be the person that they are pretending to be and copying. So dissociative disorders usually develop as a reaction of trauma and help keep difficult memories at bay for some time, because the person who has the trauma basically comes back to these same memories, and besides that, they have to come to the realization that they have lost time doing something that they don't remember, feeling as if they are not part of life. And so therefore they can develop also because of malnutrition, because these go together, right? So usually these people who are feeling this way have deficiencies. Okay, so Mayo Clinic says that these symptoms can range from amnesia to alternate identities. So depend in part on the type of dissociative disorder you have or the person has. Times of stress can temporarily worsen symptoms, making them more obvious. And all of these things, by the way, are driven or driven by our nervous system. So depending on how our nervous system is, if it's unbalanced, then we're going to experience even more symptoms, a worse situation than if we have what we need. For example, I have mentioned vitamin D3, which is a hormone, the complex B, which, if you can notice with the complex B, if you notice my face, it has a better look to it. It has a fresher look to it, and that is because I was lacking the complex B back in July when I mentioned about it, and now even the situation that I had with my neck, I had all this inflamed over here. It was like all out. It is not no more. And of course, that is part of the thyroid function, which I might need more vitamin D. I take it every day. I take vitamin D every day. And I take complex, the B complex. I found out that the amount that I was taking was not enough. And so from 400 that I was taking every day, I'm taking now 1,000. And that is for the complex B. And as you can see, it's making my muscles have a better function. I have mentioned before that I had taken out my wisdom tooth back in 2014 when they came out, and of course I did not have feeling this section over here. It was very tight, my muscles, but also the muscles around here and around the lower part over here of my eyes. It was like sinking. It was like there was no puffiness to it, so meaning like life is going out, and basically that's what's happened. We're dying. So the vitamin B complex is responsible for the formation of our DNA, also for the maintenance of our DNA, and for our chromosomes. So B complex is actually, a very important supplement to take. Not only that, you will have more energy, you will feel happier, because basically that's what I believe is lacking, besides the other elements that we need for the formation of a baby inside of the mother's womb, which is also folic acid, omega-3, vitamin E, vitamin C, the magnesium at night. We need those minerals, and the body cannot produce these. So, and the food, that is something also that I have found out, is not enough. It's not, it doesn't matter how much food you eat of the good, healthy food, you need the supplements. If you look at my face and the way I look, before I look swollen everywhere. My body was swollen. And I had even more allergic reactions. And that was because the lack of the sufficient B complex. Because I did forget to take the B complex for a few weeks, but that wouldn't have caused me the trouble that I went to in July. That caused me to remember that I need to take it, and then I've been taking it ever since, every day. And I went up the supplement, having 1,000 milligrams, I think it is, or I don't know if it's I think it is milligrams of micromilligrams of the B complex, and I have been taking that, and my muscles have better movement. I have lost not weight, but I was swollen. I have a fresher look also, and that is because, again, the vitamin, the B complex, yes, they have a better outlook of the face and the muscles. So if you have any conditions that have to do with your muscles, you are lacking the B complex. I'm 47. I'm 47 years old. I'm almost to be 50. And I take care of myself. I try to take care of myself. I enjoy life. I take care of my life. Life is very important. Life is sacred. So I take care of it. I take care of myself. Thank you. But we have to take care of ourselves, our existence, our bodies, our physical bodies. We are someone. I am someone. I am Judith. And I should take care of myself because I love myself, love my existence. And if you are not taking yet the vitamin D, the B complex, the vitamin E, the vitamin C, the omega-3, you should start tomorrow when you go to the store and get those. It's not a lot. Taking it in the morning and then take magnesium at night to sleep better. You will feel different. You'll have a better thyroid function. Look at my neck now. Look at my face. I feel good too. I have energy the whole day. I still have diabetes. I still have loss of, because I went through a brain traumatic event when it was June 21, 2017, and from that I still have setbacks. So I have to take care of myself so that I can continue to get better, have better function. But so far I do, and I recommend it to everyone. And so with the dissociative identity disorders, right, it can come, for example, and this is the same thing that happens with those who have autism. They want to escape reality. For those who have trauma, they want to escape reality. But for those who have autism, they want to be in the fantasy because it allows them to express themselves. Are you ignoring me? Someone says. No, I am not. Well, maybe a little bit, because I was talking and saying something, but no, I try not to. Right? So the one who is going through the trauma wants to escape reality. The one who has autism wants to be in the fantasy, form stories, so that the person who has autism can be able to do something that they cannot do, which is speak, communicate. Keeping that in mind, then also the person who has this dissociative identity disorder, the one who has the trauma, can be with an identity for some time and then come to self. The person who has autism is always going from main alternates to other alternates in a moment, in a conversation. The person who has autism can go from identity to identity to identity to identity in the same moment that the person is having the conversation, because they are like putting together as a quilt, forming a conversation. And so that's why the conversation is going to seem as that, as if it's put together with little pieces of information that sometimes it may not make sense. And also the actions that go with the words may be inappropriate. And so you can see the person is speaking and saying something, and it kind of look like you're wondering, why is this person saying this? Of course, you're not saying it out, but you're thinking it. And the person who has autism cannot tell that you are thinking about this. They cannot see the expressions on your face. They will miss that. But you're thinking, why is this person doing this inappropriate? This is inappropriate. He or she should know that shouldn't behave this way, or shouldn't do this, or shouldn't do that, or shouldn't say this. The person who has autism is unable to tell, is unable to come to and say, well, what am I doing? Because that person is never on or conscious of self, because that person has not formed an identity for self. And so that is the difference. That is the difference, but it's a big difference. It's a small difference, but it's a big difference in treating those who have autism. Also, when it comes to those who have who go to therapy, for example, the children who go to therapy for them to be helped to speak, the concentration is in having the person look at the eyes, right? Because for those who don't have autism, that is part of conversation. But for those who have autism, their disconnect is from the brain that affects their vision. So you trying to make them look at you in the face, look at you in the eyes, is not doing anything good for them. It's actually making the situation worse, in my opinion. And if you think about it, I'm sure that you will come to the same opinion. So having better understanding, and that is why I'm sharing this information that I am gathering, because there are certain things that are accepted, because someone went to school for 7 years and they study many books about things that people wrote, and studies that can change from one day to another, because and make the information invalid because maybe whatever they saw is not what they seen, as it is in the situation with those who have autism. Which, from my understanding, right, because that's what I did first. I analyzed the situation with Frank. The first thing that I noticed was his dissociative identity disorder. His conversations were not making sense. His actions were not making sense. I didn't know that he had autism. I only saw first the dissociative identity disorder, and that he was trying to kind of like make words with his actions. It's like he was speaking, but he was speaking about making words with the things that he was doing, and pointing, and with the people that he was, and the things that he was doing. He was trying to make words because he has autism. And so his dissociative identity disorder, of course, Sybil was one of the movies that I saw that helped me understand that, yes, indeed, it was a dissociative identity disorder, but dissociative identity disorder is part of something. It comes from something. Something has to happen for the person to become to dissociate self from self. And of course, we have the group that has trauma, and this can be in childhood, right? Most likely, forms in childhood, because adults, we have the capacity of having better understanding why things are. For children, is not. So as it happened in the movie Sybil, we know Sybil grew up with this trauma and grew up trying to get away from whatever she had gone through, and the only way that she did was by the dissociative identity disorder. For those who have autism, they want to speak. So even though they may have been abused also, their trauma may always come to the major thing that happens with them, which is that they are unable to communicate. And so even if they have gone through trauma, they will have the difficulty of explaining what happened to them. So they are, of course, at a more disadvantage because of this. Because they are unable to explain, because they are only able to use scripted conversations from whatever someone is saying. And it's not every day and everybody out there talking about them being abused, right? So, but for the most part, for those who have autism, their dissociative identity disorder is that they want to be in the fantasy world so that they can pretend to be this and that person, and they really believe that they become that. They really believe they become dad, or they really believe that they become mom. So it doesn't matter if it's a boy becoming mom, now also brings another issue, the gender issue, the gender confusion issue. That child, that boy believes, I am mom. That boy does not believe, I am like mom, or I am going to behave as mom. Because if not, obviously we wouldn't have the confusion that we have in regards to the person saying, well, I am a boy, or I am a girl, which those who do not have autism have no problem identifying who they are, if they are boy, if they are male, or if they are female. But those who have autism, as well as those who have trauma, they go through these dissociative gender and confusion, but for different reasons. As we see in the movie Sybil, which shows Sybil, and I am mentioning the movie not because you cannot find it in the world out there with many people who have confusion in regards to, well, if you have a penis, then you are a male man, and a male man would not have any problem knowing this and having this understanding. But the person who has trauma wants to get away from self. The person who has autism wants to be able to speak. And both persons, both groups, have different way of getting information into their brain. Those who are those who have autism can only understand, discern, and bring information in literally, in a literal way, and they also portray it in that way. Those who have trauma, most likely they don't have any problem with being self, as it shows in the movie, right? Sybil, she comes to herself, knowing that she exists as Sybil, and that is her legal name. But for those who have autism, they tend to avoid, ignore their name, the importance of it, their legal name, when they are younger, not responding to it, because obviously that child has already created that story in their mind, in his or her mind, in regards to, I am mom, or I am dad, or I am guardian, whoever it is that guardian is. for those who have trauma in regards to their gender confusion or that gender identity that they may want to show, might be for protection, to feel that they are protected. So they have that one or two identities out of the many identities with their personalities that they may have created and invented. For those who have autism, they don't create and invent personalities. They are always based on the same patterns, either mom or dad or siblings. Those are the differences. And I am sharing these because it needs to be known so that the person can be helped. And the person can be helped by reasoning with the person. So that's why I bring my opinion, in my personal opinion, right? I bring this information, autism awareness. I am not just telling people that autism is there. I am telling people what autism is, what is not, how to handle the situation, right? I have said use, when it comes to treating someone, the person usually gets out from self. In the situation of autism and the situation of trauma, the two groups have the same in regards to reality. They want to get away from it. But also, if these two groups have malnutrition, they don't have the vitamins that they need in order for their function. As I mentioned, the complex B is responsible for our chromosomes and our DNA composition and our DNA maintenance. Our DNA needs to be maintained. Our chromosomes. Every cell in our body needs to be maintained. Vitamin D is a hormone that the body needs. Vitamin E helps us with the maintenance of our body, getting rid of antioxidants that damage our cells. It protects our nerves, our nervous system, which is very important when it comes to how we feel, how we get these emotions, how we respond. And then also the vitamin C helps as antioxidant, as helping with our blood health, how our blood is going to flow inside of our body. The omega-3 also helps with how the flow of blood is going to go in our body. It is important because we need, and most importantly, a lot of blood in our brain. And if we're not having these necessary things, is what's going to make our function not optimum to the way it should be. Just by being hungry, we start losing our memory by one meal that we eat. Imagine if we don't have the nutrition that we're supposed to have every day. And so, and also the magnesium at night, having a good routine, sleeping 7-8 hours a day, exercising, hydrating, drinking water, drinking enough water in the day, and having the supplements, which the food is not enough. And as I mentioned, I had to up my take of the B complex, and you can see the difference from July to now. I can see the difference when I see myself, when I see my face, when I see the way my muscles are. And so that's what I wanted to mention today, because I am this is in regards to the topic of the importance of I, because it is related to making an identity for self. It is the basis, right, for everything that we're going to do. Judith, I am many things. I do many things, but I do them under Judith. So you see the consistency there, and that is part of identity, my identity. And that is something that Frank is now learning how to do, which is to put himself together in the one identity that he is, and putting the actions and his skills and his talents to the one person that he is. So Judith, I am many things. I do a lot of things. I have a secular work, but I also partake of spiritual activities. I also enjoy different things that I do in my personal time for my personal enjoyment. I make music, I write music, I make poems, I cook, I clean, all under Judith. One person doing many things. And it has nothing to do with gender. It has to do with that I have two hands, I have a brain, and I can do these actions. That is not related to gender. It isn't because I am a female woman that I am able to sing. It is because I have a mouth. I have taken classes when I was younger of music, of singing. I used to participate in singing, and I used to do that. And so that's a skill that I learned how to do. And there are also other things that I learned how to do. But it isn't because I am a female woman. It is because I am a human. My gender is not what makes me do the things that I know how to do. Gender has to do with if, for example, I am in a relationship, I am married, and I want to give of myself to my husband. And then the sexual part comes in. Otherwise, I am a human, and I can do things because I have a brain, and the information comes from my brain, the knowledge comes from my brain, not from my genitals. Because what I have seen is that people are making emphasis, especially those who have autism, making emphasis on the sex, the gender. Instead, the focus should be, I am a human. I have this and this knowledge. I have that and that experience. I know how to do this because I learned how to do it. And that should be the reason why. Not because of my genitals. Which shouldn't be a part of what my secular work is. Or what my spiritual activities are. So having a better understanding of that has to do with also identity. Getting a better understanding of humanity, humans, and respecting self because of that. Not because of body parts, sexual body parts, but instead of what the person is, because of what the person is in knowledge, experience, skills, talents. And then doing that under that one identity, legal identity. Why? We are all legal entities. I am a legal entity. I'm a human, but I am a legal entity also. We are all legal entities as humans. And it's based on our existence. So of course our identity is part of that. That is why it makes sense that we have a name, a last name, that we belong to that family name, and that we respond to our names and make something out of it also. That Judith Mendoza represents all these things that I am. Not that all these things are different things that I will put on different identities. It shouldn't be that way. Of course, we have to learn how to use our power of reason. And that is based on knowledge and experience and discernment and understanding and doing research. All right, so that's what I wanted to say about that. And in regards to dissociative amnesia, when it comes to amnesia, right, the person loses their memory, but this is a condition that can be helped. It can be helped first, and that should be with all mental conditions. That we have good nutrition, good sleep, hydration, making sure that we are taking these vital essential vitamins that I have mentioned, and minerals, and antioxidants, and that we have good habits for ourselves, protecting our mind, our brain. And so that's what I had to say for today. The next time I will be speaking in regards to the importance of I, and I will now begin in relation to conversations, right? Opening conversations, conversation starters, but then also how our identity is important when it comes to our interaction with others, from the person of I to the other person, and why the importance of I is important when it comes to interaction, when it comes to conversation, when it comes to when you say the first thing of hello, how are you doing? You have said a lot from there. So that I will consider next time. All right, I hope you have a beautiful day and evening, and have a beautiful week ahead.